got to head out to Akron tonight and call that game. And Tim, I think the Urson Irish made a little bit of a statement tonight.
Yeah, that's back-to-back weeks now. After that 3-score win over Austin Fitch, and then tonight it was a really impressive win, especially since Ursuline threw 2 interceptions. They picked it up on defense. They got I think 3 interceptions of their own, a fumble. They faced a lot of adversity, which I think is a big thing for them because they played a lot of teams that they really ran through the first few games outside of Steubenville and Fitch. So this is kind of one of those games just to say, we're facing a really good program, a team that we haven't beat since 2011. So to get that win, turning the ball over twice, really, really helped them. This is how it's going to be in the playoffs against good teams, some adversity.
What changed from the first half to the second half? Because that second half, they took the lead, and then all of a sudden we flipped back, and they were up another one. Like, it was just boom, boom. It seemed like they struck quick.
Yeah, it was. That first half, they scored, I believe, on their third drive. They went 3 down their first 2 drives. They got an interception in the red zone to kind of keep them. They got a fumble later, and they scored a touchdown. It was a big pass to Devontae Taylor. He's a stud sophomore, but they threw a pick six right before halftime. It was a tip ball inside the 5-yard line, so they were back on their own goal line. So I thought it was going to be a defensive battle there. And after that, it started off 3 and out for St. B's. Started the half. Ursuline found Devontae Taylor for a 50-yard touchdown. Another 3 and out, and they scored again. It was just quick scores. It really was it. And then I'm sure you guys saw last week against Fitch, Jaquise Liaison had a 100-yard kickoff return to start the game. He had a 70-yard kickoff return. He picked up a ball, he made a cut, and he ran. He didn't have any time to get started. It was a lot of big plays, and then they gave a couple big plays of their own. But everything St. B's did, Ursuline seemed to have an answer for, and they started just killing the clock in the second quarter, and including a big time fourth quarter. It was St. B's was down the field. They were down by 1 touchdown. Looked like they were going to tie the game up, and on the 9-yard line, their quarterback threw a ball right to Tyron Davis in the end zone. He ran it 91 yards back to the 14-yard line where they set up a touchdown for Christian Lynch, and that really just killed the game there. And then Liason had an interception on the next St. B's drive to kind of call game.
Yeah, Tim, this is not the first time Ursuline's been able to force turnovers in big moments in games. They seem like they've been doing that so much this year. From your perspective, what is it about this defense that makes them such ball hawks and able to find the balls and take them away?
Usually people will say, it's the experience, they got the talent, but they start 2 seniors on defense. That's really it. Ty Dunlow and then Lorenzo Rohrbaugh. Rohrbaugh didn't play as much on defense tonight, but their secondary is filled with juniors and sophomores. Their line's filled with a couple seniors and then a lot of sophomores. Honestly, it's just the way that how they're disciplined, really. It's the way they rally the ball every play. It's the tenacity they play with. They don't give up. They got a lot of really good athletes, and they don't have everyone playing both ways. Like Devontae Taylor only plays receiver. Luke Kohler only plays defense. He led their team in interceptions as a freshman. It's really it's obviously the coaching, because none of this is really possible without the coaching too. It's really hard to pinpoint one thing, but I would just say the way they're always doing the little things right. And the one time they didn't they missed a big tackle that resulted in a big 69-yard touchdown. But it's really, honestly, the difference between their defense this year and the last 2 years, I think it's just their ability to play stout defense and control the line of scrimmage against the really good teams. Last year, they had trouble against Canfield in the regional semis. They had trouble controlling it in the state championship game 2 years ago. But now they're playing Fitch and St. B's, and they're winning the trenches against good offensive lines. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to at the end of the day.
I think that's been big. But the other thing we've noticed, and we've talked about a couple times this year, Tim, their discipline. The discipline that this Irish team has is amazing.
Yeah, you said it. And, they had a game against Youngstown East where they got a lot of penalties, and they had a few false start penalties early in the first half against them today. And overall, though, the season's been pretty clean. Their offensive line was the biggest question mark coming into the season. I talked to a coach last year, and he said, you know what, in 2023, our skill is going to probably carry us the first half of the season while our line catches up. And if this is Ursuline's offensive line catching up, I'm really interested to see what they're going to do in the playoff, because their line, juniors and seniors, but none of them started. None of them started the last few years because they were senior laid across the whole line the last few years. 3-year starters, 4-year starters, Division I players. It's really the way that the line, how they had a lot of experience in terms of being in the program, not playing, and there's not many holding calls. There's not many false starts. There's not many plays that are putting you back and saying, okay, this line, I can tell they hadn't started for 2 or 3 years. They look almost as good as last year's line, and I think they're going to be just as good by the end of the season.
Perfect, man. Hey, we thank you for calling in. Just for fun, if the playoffs started right now, it's not official, it would be Ursuline Cheney in the first round.
Ooh,
Just saying.
that is for fun.
Yeah.
We'll get a preview that in a couple weeks anyway. But I'll tell you what, it's a stacked region. Villangelo just lost by 31 to Bishop Hartley tonight, which is the big one for Ursuline to look at for next week. Kenston blew Villangelo out of the water, and Kenston's really good. But I think the team everyone needs to look out for outside of Ursuline is Chardon. It's kind of like an obvious statement. Okay, Chardon, they won 2 state titles in the last 3 years. The thing with them is they're starting off 3-3. They played a really good schedule. They're going to win 3 of their next 4 games at minimum. They might even beat Riverside the rest of the season. They'll probably end up being a 6 or 7 seed based off of them, that they were a 15 seed right now. I think if you're Ursuline, you're like, you know what? If we see Chardon in the second round, that's going to be brutal.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you're Villangelo or Kenston and we see Chardon in the second round, that's going to be brutal. Whoever doesn't get Chardon on their side in that kind of the 7, 8, 9 seed, they're going to be really lucky they don't get them, because Chardon is going to be playing upset as a team that probably is a top 4 team skill-wise.
All right, man. Thanks. We appreciate it.
And right after Tim Corso, we have Eric Hughes popping in. He was at the McDonald and Louisville game.
Eric, you got to see those Rockets kind of do what they needed to do tonight. That was a nice win against McDonald.
Yeah, I didn't expect it was going to be 40-6, but I kind of expected Louisville win convincingly. I thought they were being a little bit underrated going into the week, like they've been the last few weeks. And like they were just firing all cylinders tonight on both sides of the ball.
Well, the game was tight for a while. I mean, it was 19-6 for a long time, but all of a sudden when Louisville decided it was go time, it was go time.
I mean, like the game started off like the third play of the game. They fumbled the ball. McDonald picked it up, recovered it, returned all the way for a touchdown. But they weren't phased after that. And I know only 19 points in the first half seems underwhelming, but they were really chewing up most of the clock. They had like quite a few long possessions that all ended in scores after that disastrous first drive.
Yeah, when you think about this, and you said you expected Louisville to win convincingly. I was not in that boat. I thought McDonald has played in nothing but close games this year. What was the difference that really let Louisville run away with this game?
Michael Blum. I know I say it every week, but he can do it all. I mean, there's more I was gonna say, but he had the 2 passes.
That's the answer to every question about Louisville.
But then on McDonald's side, though, I know Drew Zajac, he had an amazing game last week, but they don't seem to have the quarterback position quite figured out, because they're like rotating between him and then Kyle Puckett, who's also another sophomore, and they're both 2 different quarterbacks. And when you have 2 different quarterbacks playing, like 2 different quarterbacks rotating in, that's usually a red flag, in my opinion.
The old adage is, if you have 2, you don't have 1, right?
Like John Madden said, yeah.
Go ahead, I'm joking.
So good. Eric, let's talk about Louisville going forward. You know, this is obviously a big win in the conference. They have a lot of big games ahead in the last 3 weeks of the regular season. What's next for them? What do you think is the big key to keeping this momentum going?
1 week at a time. I mean, luckily for them, this is kind of a blessing and a curse. They didn't play their first home game until last week against Mineral Ridge. They were supposed to play week 2 home against Camel, but their power went out. They had to move up the hill. Didn't really matter. They beat Camel pretty convincingly. But I think having 4 of their last 5 games at home is key for them, especially when they have to play Springfield at the very end of the year.
Well, I think the big thing, too, for Louisville, they want to position themselves. They would like to play a home game or 2 in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Where are they
I
seated
know.
right now? You have the
I just pulled it up. Right now they're sitting 7, but they're Dalton's hasn't been updated. Springfield has updated, so we'll see where it falls out. But if you're looking at things early, right now the Rockets are, you want that home game, especially to bring them down in there by the train tracks, and gives you one more visit to the Hard Rocket Cafe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They want one more trip to the wedding soup.
I actually didn't. I haven't tried the wedding soup yet. Tonight I went with the chicken parm.
Oh,
That was also
Great.
amazing.
when it gets colder, I think you'll lean towards that soup a little bit.
Yeah,
Nice,
that's what I'm
nice
going
thermos.
Yeah,
Next week against Jacksonville.
You'll want to
That's
take
what
a
I'm going
quarter of
for.
that home.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, they got to take it 1 week at a time, though. They got Jacksonville next week. That's going to be a tough game. They'd have Waterloo, which, I mean, Lowell might be the better team on paper, but that's still a road game. They have to go all the way out there. They have to be ready for that. And then, of course, like I said, Springfield, the cream of the crop, they have to play them week 10. Luckily, that game's at home.
Last game of the year, and it's Springfield. That's a good way to end the season.
And it's a perfect ending there. What's some of the things you've gotten to see Lowville up close? Is there something maybe you'd like to see from them, or that they could improve on heading down the stretch run?
I've noticed the last couple of weeks, despite like the big score margins, winning 40-6 and then 38-21 last week,
We lost. We're back.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, they still have like so many like ill-advised penalties and like mistakes times. Like tonight in the first quarter, they had 2 fumbles on a punt return. Then the third play of the game, when Michael Blount fumbled it, McDonald scooped and scored. They got to clean up those type of things for them to really take that next step, I feel like.
All right, man. Hey, we appreciate you calling in. I know we'll be talking to you here in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep, anytime.
And guess what's about to come? Anthony's favorite spot. We work on this all night.
That's the scoreboard. Let me get it out. That's the scoreboard brought to you by Burnett Pool Spas and Hot Tubs.
There it is.
Let's bring it up on the screen for you guys. You know what, Mike? Let's full screen it, right?
All right, we'll full screen it. That's easy.
There you go. Look at that wonderful logo. What? Almost. Burnett Pool Spas and Hot Tubs.
So wonderful. Anthony is choked up.
I'm choked up, man. I can't do it.
Oh, you're good, man.
No,
all
you're
right,
good.
we're going to run down. And as always, just because of how big and how many scores we have, we always go over to the fourth. That way we can stay on the other 3. So we'll start over there as always.
Let's I get that scroll bar. Boop. There we go.
Bring it down.
Back
We'll
up to our
start there. And just like our guy was talking to us, that Springfield team looming. We thought this was going to be a pretty good game. It was pretty all Tigers.
It was, and it was good for a minute, but then Springfield, like Springfield usually does, just ended up making a lot of big plays down the stretch.
And it was a tough night for Grand Valley. Harvey come in there, jumped. They shut him out 42-0, and then a game that for a while was interesting. And it was a 2-score game, but when South Range decided it was time to put Gerard to bed, they did it.
We're both doing it, man. This was a game that it was interesting because South Range started to look like they were gonna take control of the game. And South Range would take control. And then down the stretch, Gerard made it a 1-score game at 28-21. South Range returns the favor, scores, and then gets the interception, sets up another score, and just like that, it's 49-21.
49-21.
I mean, the score was a lot more lopsided than it really appeared to be. A couple of late turnovers for Gerard really sealed the deal, nail in the coffin.
Well, I think the big thing too, if you look at South Range, it's now about stacking wins.
Right.
Back to back, Gerard points out of that. And that, unofficially they're sitting third in Region 17.
And now they have to root for the teams that they've beat.
Yeah,
so
they
now
need-
they got to be Poland's biggest fans, who you can see down there. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but you can see the score down there. So they're Poland's biggest fans. They're going to be Gerard's biggest fans now. I think they have Niles next week, so that'll be a big one for South Range.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that looms Niles, Louisville, and Hubbard to end the season. So
Yeah, and you'll look at it. I mean, Niles needed this win against Poland. And,
Yeah.
and I know we're going to talk about the game a little bit later when we get to it, but now all of a sudden South Range's keys to the NE8 are in the ignition, and all they have to do now is just kind of turn it on.
I think that you guys thought that we forgot. That's 28 straight
Straight NE8 victories.
Yes.
Going back to Niles, who they're going to play next.
Yes.
They lost to Niles in overtime in 2019.
Yeah, or that streak would be a lot longer.
Right.
We move along. Pontiac shut out by Geneva 55-0.
A Geneva team, man. They're not a YSN school, but they've been beating a couple of YSN schools.
Yeah.
Pretty hidden.
And then one of the games of the night, East Liverpool Edison final 17-14. East Liverpool. It is Camden Miller with a off game-winning field goal for the Potters.
Off of a turnover. The Potters got a fumble recovery in their own territory. Big mistake by Edison, and they pay for it dearly.
Yeah. Defensive struggle up in Camel tonight, but Champion comes out ahead on that one 7-0. And another wild one. Early on in this game, it was Brookfield. They jumped on LeBray, and I'm thinking, oh boy, this could get ugly. And all of a sudden, the Vikings decided, we're going to play.
Six, that's what it was 38-33. And then the pick six made it 43-33 final score.
Yeah, and when they took the lead, I think they went up 36-33. They went for two, trying to force the field goal. But boy, what a gutsy effort by the Vikings tonight as they come back to win that one. Another fantastic game also in Trumbull County this evening was Hubbard